For 250 years, the United States Marine Corps has been rewriting what it means to be first to fight. Their story began with rum, grit, and a group of men who could fight like hell, then raise a glass when it was over. And today, that same spirit lives on. I'm joined by Corporal Chris Kuhns, who has been a modern Marine infantryman and also is the director of the Pennsylvania Military Museum, where he steps into the green coat of the Continental Marines. Now, Chris, the Marine Corps we picture today, that polished, disciplined, unbreakable, well, that started very differently. It was born in a bar, and somehow I feel that spirit may have never left. Do you feel the early spirit still survives in the modern Corps?
Absolutely, especially you mentioned born in the bar. That very much is the spirit of the United States Marine Corps, the United States Marine. When we're off duty, we like to embody the whole work hard, play hard mentality. We're a rough and tumble group of guys. Usually, the typical Marine is in the early 20s, especially for the lower enlisted guys. And we very much like to go out to bars, partake in drinking, as the old sailors, Marines love to. But then when it comes to actual work, if you look at how the Continental Marines conducted themselves at the time, yes, they very much loved to go to bars. Yes, they were recruited out of Tun Tavern. But when it comes down to it, we are very good at our job, and we have no problem being professional when we're actually going to work.
And the first Marines were scrappers. They were tough, undisciplined, but deadly when it mattered. You see that same fight in today's Marines?
Especially in terms of being scrappers and hard chargers and all. If you read the original the advertisements and read about the journal entries where they talk about recruiting Continental Marines, they're very much looking for that rough and tumble, ready to go kind of attitude. And just like anyone else in the Continental Army, the Continental Navy, the Marines typically were the lower class, the people who just needed a job. But you could still very much tell they had that revolutionary spirit. The rebellion was very much something that they were interested in and they believed in. And so that when they took that into combat, they were very much a rough and tumble sort of group. And that's absolutely how it is still today. Marines, especially infantry Marines, when I was in, pretty much all we do day in and day out, besides cleaning and janitorial work, is we practice MCMAP, Marine Corps Martial Arts Program. We go to the field, we go to the rifle range, and we're always ready to go, ready to get in a fight now if need be.
And from the beginning, the Marines have been, different. They existed in their own space. They were connected to the Navy, but they were undeniably independent. So do you think that independent spirit still defines the Corps?
People love to poke fun at us saying, yeah, you're still part of the Navy. Well, we are, but we're our own branch. We have our own identity. And along with that, we have our own history and traditions. We share a lot of traditions with the Navy, but we are very much kind of like the individual redhead stepchild of the military, where we are hyper focused on going into combat. When you go to Parris Island or San Diego, so I was an East Coast Marine. I went to Parris Island. Day one, they tell you every Marine is a rifleman, and they make you remember the mission of the Marine Corps Rifle Squad, which every single Marine is able to recite from memory at any point during their Marine Corps career. So we are very hyper-focused on being the individual, being the combat-ready branch.
So you finished your time in the Marine Corps, and now you're a military historian. So why is the historical connection so important to those who serve?
I like to say there's kind of two, the intangible and the tangible aspects of military history. So the tangible is the lessons learned from the past. So something I always did as squad leaders and NCO was I like to do the battle analysis, battle studies with the junior Marines, my fellow enlisted guys, just to study what happened in the past, what we can learn from history that we can take to tomorrow's fight, or to take in our everyday lives to make decisions. Because that's all history is, after all, just decision after decision building upon each other. But the intangible I think is what really sets the Marine Corps apart, and that's the esprit de corps, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, that the invisible force that binds all Marines together. I mean, if I go out in town tonight into a bar and I saw another guy with an EGA shirt wearing an Eagle Globe and Anchor, we're automatically best friends because we have that camaraderie, that esprit de corps that binds us all together. And I think that's one of the most important parts of the Marine Corps is from day one, you're learning about, November 10th, 1775, Tun Tavern, regardless of whether it's the myth or legend or the truth, we're taught the history of the Marine Corps. And that's something that we place higher than any other branch. And I feel that really drives our spirit, drives our camaraderie. And when it comes down to it, if you're looking at that PFC, that Lance Corporal who's in a dirt hole, he's freezing his butt off, he had MREs for the past month, hasn't had any real food and water out of a disgusting canteen. You might want to think like, I'm just going to go home. This is stupid. I don't want to be here. But in a Marine's mind, and a lot of times what kind of got me through is thinking, well, man, it sucks now, but it would really suck to be that Marine in Way City or that Marine in Iwo Jima or that Marine during the 10 crucial days marching with George Washington wearing ratty clothes, no shoes, and in negative 10-degree weather through the snow and mud.
And when you compare the Marines of 1775 to today, what stands out the most?
Well, by far the size. The Marine Corps then was obviously very small. It was all made up of ships companies. So they would appoint a commander who would be the ship's company commander, and he was responsible for recruiting his entire company. And then they would solely be aboard ship unless they were they were in port and they needed to go march with Washington's army or something like that. Whereas today we have almost every single job short of anything in the medical field or religious field. You could be an artilleryman, you could be infantry, you could be a tanker, you could be you could be administrative personnel, you could be a pilot, you could be crew chief. Definitely the scope of the Marine Corps and also the mission. Again, back 250 years ago, Marines were mainly a police force aboard their ship that they were assigned to, and then they would engage in naval combat and amphibious warfare every once in a while. Where the Marine Corps has gone through a bunch of mission changes over the years, and now we are America's expeditionary force in readiness. So we are ready to go project power across the globe at any moment.
All right, now, after 250 years, what hasn't changed at all?
Definitely the esprit de corps. You read a lot of journal entries. In fact, I was just reading one that was written by the Marine Corps History Division not too long ago. And it was kind of interesting seeing these similarities and thought processes between this lieutenant that they were recording his journal from and the modern Marine, where we were very much looking forward to getting to combat. We were enlisted to get into combat, and fight for our country. And I think the biggest similarity is the adaptability. So I already kind of alluded to it, but back in the Revolutionary War, Marines were, they were supposed to be sailors from the sea. Now that's two different jobs. That's a sailor, that's the Continental Navy, and a soldier, that's the Continental Army. So you're doing really two jobs aboard a ship. You're expected to go into the rigging. You're expected to be a marksman. You're supposed to be able to shoot better than anyone else in the Navy or the Army or the Marine Corps at the time. You're also expected to be a police force. You have to guard the ship, guard the crew, prevent mutinies. You have to be an artillerist. In fact, a bunch of Marines after the 10 crucial days, they would stay with the Continental Army because they were trained in artillery. So they would have to adapt to whatever was asked of them. And that's still the same today. You don't have a Marine who's going to tell you, that's not my job. I'm not going to do that. If you tell a Marine to do something, they're going to figure out a way to do it. It might not be the best way to do it, but we'll get it done.
If you could bring one of those original Continental Marines forward in time and show him what the Corps has become, what do you think his reaction would be?
I think he would be flabbergasted. Just absolutely astounded at first of all, the Marine Corps is still here. I mean, the Marine Corps was disbanded at the end of the Revolutionary War. In fact, a lot of ships companies would kind of dissolve, fade away throughout the war. They would be melded over into the Continental Army. I don't know if the average Marine necessarily knew that the Marine Corps is going to continue on past the Revolutionary War. But I would say they would certainly probably be a little astounded that the Marine Corps is still there, and the giant fighting force that we are today. Now, giant to them, relatively small compared to the rest of the branches. So I think that would be pretty astounding. And personally, I would hope that they would feel proud. Just happy that they started. They had one of the opening chapters in one of the greatest fighting forces in the world, really. Which I might be a little biased, but looking at our record, we're doing pretty good in terms of combat.
Chris, thank you for your service, and thanks for helping us remember where it all began. From tavern recruits to a global force in readiness, the uniforms, the weapons, the missions have changed, but the core remains a brotherhood of fighters, bound by history, driven by that same relentless spirit that began in a Philadelphia bar. Happy birthday to the U.S. Marine Corps.